World of Warcraft is coming to console, and it's going to change everything. That's right, the new Midnight launch, TBC Classic Anniversary, even Classic Plus, they're all coming to console. Let's talk about all the huge news right now, and exactly how it's going to affect you as a PC gamer. So ever since Blizzard was acquired by Microsoft back in 2022, and long before anybody knew what 6.7 was, WoW players have speculated that the end game was to have World of Warcraft on Game Pass, and even bigger, to have World of Warcraft on console. Players have really been suspecting lately that Blizzard is pushing WoW towards consoles, especially with the changes that have been happening with really all the versions of WoW. The one-button rotation, the simplified rotations for Midnight, the removal of healer interrupts, the removal of add-ons. But finally, the confirmation is actually here, and WoW is indeed coming to consoles. It all starts with this brand new Xbox console. Windows Central, today they released a brand new article with all the news about the new Xbox console. It's a pretty f***ing compelling console. It's a handheld like a Steam Deck using next-gen AMD technology. It's gonna be backwards compatible, so any of your old Xbox games should work, and it's also got free multiplayer, so you're not gonna have to pay for anything. The big idea, though, is not playing your Xbox games. The idea is that you can play any Windows games at all. Spider-Man, God of War, League of Legends would even work. Anything that you can play on a PC, you should be able to play. Steam, Epic Game Store, the Riot Launcher. The TLDR is, this is a super-powered handheld computer. It plays everything. More games, more potential than pretty much any other console ever. You and I, though, we don't have these new consoles. Maybe you don't have any interest in buying one at all. So how is this going to affect us as WoW players? Well, you know how I just said that the new console can play anything and everything? Well, the confirmation is that yes, this console will be able to play World of Warcraft. That means you'll be able to level, to farm gold, to raid, mythic keys, anything, everything. And it's not just for retail either, which a lot of people suspected. The new Xbox console is going to play Classic WoW, TBC, Classic Plus, retail, everything. Now here's the catch though. It doesn't seem like World of Warcraft is magically going to start working on PlayStations or the old Xboxes. So that does mean that it's going to be limited to this brand new console. At least for now though. With Halo being announced on PlayStation just a week ago, it seems like this is the beginning of more console WoW. They're already doing all this work to make WoW work on this new console. What do you guys think? I feel like it really would make sense if they also make it work on PlayStations as well. So the immediate question though is, how is WoW actually going to work on consoles? What's it going to feel like? What's it going to play like? Well, we have that answer already. The new console, it looks a lot like the ROG Ally handheld. It's basically very similar to a Steam Deck. If your friend has ever tried one, or you've ever tried one, it's going to be a very similar experience. You've got your Xbox controller, it's bolted onto the handheld. Your typical Y, your X, your B, your A buttons, your directional buttons, your thumbsticks, your paddles as well. WoW is already pretty playable on a Steam Deck, especially with add-ons, so it's not a huge problem for leveling, for basic dungeons, for farming. It should be pretty seamless, at least for casual gaming. What about hard content? What if somebody with a console is in your dungeon group or your raid group? Well, high-end raiding in Classic, especially retail, mythic keys, it was probably not going to be a very good experience with the previous version of WoW. Player Industrial Spark, back in the War Within, he did manage to get 2k IO rating as a healer with a Steam Deck. With the new simplified gameplay coming in Midnight, it should be much easier to push high rating, to do heroic raids, maybe even mythic raids. If you're in a TBC raid though, for example Karazhan, it is likely that people with consoles will be playing worse because they just have less control, no mouse, no keyboard for example, and it definitely will be pretty noticeable. Since WoW will be fully cross-play and players will all be in one massive MMO together, it's likely we can expect console players to receive some toxicity as well. Imagine your arena teammate being on a console with stunted movement, limited number of buttons they can press. Or even imagine your core healer's battery running out mid-raid. That's a G-kick right there. WoW is going to change massively with consoles, and the community is going to have to decide whether they welcome in console players or they treat them with hostility. It does seem like Blizzard is all in on simplifying retail for the next expansion, removing kicks from healers, doing all sorts of things to make the rotations easier. The things that console players can't do are going to get removed from the game. It is as simple as that. In a weird way, It is very likely that retail WoW is going to feel drastically different in the next couple of years, as it has to work on console, whereas Classic may really not change at all. Ultimately, it may end up really being the place where WoW still feels like WoW, and retail just becomes something else entirely. So how expensive will this new console be, and how many people are actually going to buy this and play World of Warcraft with it? The optimist would say, okay, the ROG Ally came out, it was about $600. It's probably going to be more expensive than that, and they already confirmed it's going to be more expensive than the current Series X, so somewhere around the $700 range seems pretty likely. Considering it will essentially be a high-end gaming laptop, that isn't a terrible deal. The Doomers, though, will say the ROG Ally, people already thought it was too expensive and had less power than other competing handhelds. For a lot of people, it's likely that a gaming laptop will still end up being more economical, and if you want to play WoW, will probably still be the way to go. If this console ends up being around $700, the question is how many people would actually want to buy it? We have an answer with Steam Deck, which has reportedly sold around 6 million units, and that's around that $500 to $550 range. The current Xbox Series X has sold less than 30 million units, which is still a pretty staggering number. If you assume that this new Xbox handheld, being expensive and all, will probably sell less than the 30 million units of the Series X, it could still easily be in the tens of millions. That is a huge number of potential new WoW players. Maybe it is, because you gotta remember, this is essentially a computer. It'll play League of Legends, Fortnite, God of War. It's no guarantee that people are just magically going to sign up for World of Warcraft just because you can play it on this new console. So ultimately, it doesn't really seem like this is going to magically grow the game by tens of millions of players. Now, what would grow the game, though, is combining with Game Pass. If you have these tens of millions of Xbox players, and you give them free World of Warcraft, you put it on the homepage, all of a sudden, it's a very different proposition. When WoW is super optimized for consoles, and the new console comes out, I do expect at some point that the game will become playable on Game Pass, and that is when we will get a massive influx of new players, because you won't have to pay for the World of Warcraft subscription fee. Hopefully, that will lead to a true revival for World of Warcraft. So this new Xbox handheld, it's coming out in about 2027. It's gonna be pretty expensive. It's gonna basically be a high-end gaming laptop that can do anything. Most importantly though, it's going to play World of Warcraft. So what do you guys think? Are you sold on this new idea of a super-powered Steam Deck that can play pretty much anything on an Xbox? Or are you thinking, hey, I've already got a PC, don't really know why I'd even want this? Well, let me know in the comments, because this is some pretty big news. And also, make sure to hit the notification bell and subscribe so you don't miss any future news coming out about this. Thank you so much, guys. Have a great day.